Oh my gosh, what did you just drop on me? Man, I was just here enjoying some retro games on my gaming channel, link in the description below, and here we are. After 3 years of complete utter radio silence, Matt vs. Japan posted a video, and it's not just any video, is Matt versus Japan is scammer. So unless this is like massive clickbait and you click and he's gonna talk about Fanta, then I'd say this video is gonna address all the controversy, however we want to say it, language channel, I guess. All right, hit me. Boom, let's go.
Am I, Matt versus Japan, a scammer? Well, you know what? Maybe I am.
Wow. Starting strong.
In these past couple years, there's been a lot of controversy surrounding me, and there's a lot of people saying a lot of things. And you know what? A lot of it is actually true. I've made a lot of mistakes, and I guess I thought that if I just laid low long enough, eventually the mistakes would blow over. But I finally realized that some of these mistakes are so indefensible that they're never going to blow over, and I need to own up to them. So in this video, I'm going to lay out everything that's happened to me in the last couple years surrounding all these controversies, and I'm going to let you decide whether you think I'm a scammer or not.
Okay, well, it's an apology video then, but I like the fact that he's not just apologizing, but he is, according to what he's saying right now, going to lay it all. So he's going to tell us everything. He's going to tell you if some people didn't know about certain controversies, he's going to tell them. That is a good way to approach it. It's a good start. It's a good start, because I'm not always against YouTube apologies. I'm just against the ones that don't feel honest. Good start. Let's go.
So the first thing I should probably talk about is my partnership that I had with Yoga, also known as Lucas.
Yeah.
So Yoga and I started working together in 2017, 2018, worked together for a couple years. It was going pretty well, but ultimately we had some disagreements we couldn't work out, and we decided to go our separate ways. But when we were deciding how to split up the assets that we had built up, we couldn't come to an agreement, and it ultimately led to a very nasty public split up. Now, I should have handled that situation a lot better, and a lot of what happened was directly my fault. But luckily, Lucas and I have since then actually made up and buried the hatchet, and we're now on very good terms, and I'm very happy to be able to call him my friend. But anyway, in the wake of Lucas and I splitting up in late 2020, a couple things happened. First of all, I met someone named Ethan, and we started Refold together. And also, just a little bit after that, I met someone named Ken Cannon. Now, Ken is someone who was like me in a lot of ways. He's an American who learned Japanese to an extremely high level while living in America. But
by the way, his level of Japanese is unquestionable. I'm kind of neutral when it comes to him, in the sense that I did not like his business practices. I did not like some of the choices he made, talking about Matt versus Japan. But I'm not a hater of his, which is why I'm here with an open mind. I want to see, okay, if he owns up to his mistakes, says he's going to change, I'm willing to accept that, although, you know, a full recovery comes only after you demonstrate that you're not gonna do the same mistakes you made in the past. So the words are great, they need to be followed by actions, but I'm always willing to, you know, if anyone says, hey, I made a mistake, I own up to it. If it's an honest apology, I am inclined to accept it as a viewer of his. But one thing, even if you're the greatest hater and you're like, no, there is no forgiving, this guy is a scammer, I don't care, that's fine, it's your choice. But his talent when it comes to his ability to speak Japanese is unquestionable. Okay, Matt versus Japan is an extremely high-level speaker of Japanese.
What was a little different than me was he had a background in online marketing and online business, and he had a business online where he helped people learn Japanese, and he made a lot of money. So when I started to become friends with Ken Cannon, he taught me a lot about this kind of business and online marketing, and I allowed myself to be very influenced by this.
Right.
And it actually led me to decide that I wanted to stop doing Refold and instead work with Ken Cannon. So I actually talked to Ethan very early on in the creation of Refold, and we had decided that I was going to leave Refold, and we together created a plan, a kind of long-term exit plan that would allow me to leave Refold in such a way that Ethan would be able to continue Refold without me. And this actually went really well. I ended up sticking around with Refold for about 2 years total. And in the middle of 2022, I officially left Refold. And to this day, 3 years later, Ethan and the Refold team run Refold, and it seems like it's going really successfully. So luckily, that went well. But anyway, around this time when I had just started to meet Ken, started to talk to Ken, I was still in Refold, An incident that happened that I have to mention is that at one point I was having what I thought was a private conversation with another member of the Japanese learning community.
Ooh, I remember that. I remember that one. I watched the whole thing.
And it turned out that this entire conversation was actually getting recorded. So this was a 2-hour conversation that we had where I was speaking very candidly about my perspective being a creator in this Japanese learning space.
Yeah.
And this conversation, was recorded without me knowing and was passed around, and it got into the hands of someone who really hates me. And this person took clips from this 2-hour-long conversation and edited it into a video that made it sound like I was saying really terrible things, like I thought my whole audience was a bunch of whales that I could just milk for money by selling like crap products, and that I thought I was some kind of Japanese god, and I would purposely try to lead my audience into thinking that I'm a Japanese god or something like that. Now, if you actually listen to the whole conversation,
I did,
in context, what I said was actually pretty mild, and so I've uploaded an entire 2-hour uncut recording of this conversation, the exact recording that went around. I have uploaded that on my second channel so that you can go and watch it and decide for yourself what you think.
Okay, put the link. That's a good approach. For what I remember, it's been a few years now. So do take my words with a pinch of salt. I do remember that watching the whole thing in context actually does sound a lot less horrible than it did if you only saw the bad clips. But in those bad clips, he did sound extremely arrogant. So there is that, for what I remember, but I would have to rewatch it. So do take my words with a grain of salt. Click in his description and do watch it to form your own opinions. Don't base it on what I just said. I'm just talking about what I remember.
Timestamps to the sections that people usually like to quote as, when I'm talking about whales or things like that.
Right.
But anyway, going back to kind of the Ken Cannon thing, what I just said will come in a little bit. But Ken and I got talking, and we decided we were going to make a pitch accent course together.
Yeah.
Making a pitch accent course was something that I had been wanting to do for many years, because pitch accent's probably one of the topics that I'm most passionate about when it comes to how to learn Japanese, because it's
Me too.
something that I found out really late in the game, and I feel like if I would have learned about it sooner, it would have saved me a lot of time and effort.
Absolutely.
And also, when I went to go and learn pitch accent, I had a really hard time doing so. There were not a lot of resources out there, and there were a lot of things I had to go and find out on my own through a lot of hard work, and I felt like I had kind of come up with my own unique framework for teaching pitch accent, and I could do it in a unique way that would provide a lot of value to people.
Right.
Now, I want to say up front that, of course, there's also Dogen's pitch accent course. Dogen's pitch accent course is really good.
Phenomenal. That's where I study my pitch accent, with Dogen. I pay for it. I've been a Patreon of his for years now. Excellent. It's on Patreon, so it's not free. It's worth every dollar. But I do believe that if Matt ditched the whole approach with the emails, which I hope he's going to do, and the whole, you'll see, he'll talk about it. And if he just provided, I think he could provide an excellent pitch accent course himself. I think he does have the skill to do it.
I would recommend anyone interested in pitch accent to go and check it out. But the course that I had in mind was a little bit more comprehensive, where it doesn't just give you the knowledge, but also helps you kind of train your ears and train your mouth and things like this. Right. And also goes into even more nitty-gritty detail that Dogen doesn't go into yet. So it wasn't meant to kind of replace Dogen's.
I'll have to see that, because Dogen does go into really a lot of detail.
Of course, it was kind of just supposed to be fill a different kind of place in the market.
Right.
But anyway, Ken and I went on to make this course. It was called Project Uproot, and it had a couple different components to it. One of the components was just video lessons, where I'm sitting in front of a digital chalkboard and I'm teaching the concepts of pitch accent according to the framework that I came up with. All in all, there ended up being 48 of these video lessons that added all up to over 15 hours of content. There was also chorusing audios, where these were basically audios that used example sentences that we created based on the video lessons, that were read by a native speaker, and they were edited in such a way that you could use them for chorusing very easily, and this was to train your mouth and train your ears. We also had Anki decks that we gave out to students that taught you the pitch of the most common words in Japanese, and then also we had live sessions where Ken and I would be joined by a native speaker, and we would have the students actually do exercises where they would test their pitch perception and actually speak Japanese, and then we would have the native speaker correct their Japanese. And so we designed this course called Project Uproot. We spent almost a year kind of planning it and things like that. And then in January 2022, we finally officially launched it. Now, the deal that Ken and I had was that I was going to mostly make the content of the course, and Ken was mostly going to be in charge of the marketing.
Makes sense because Ken is a marketing expert, although then again, sometimes marketing experts, you gotta be a little careful. But sure, intelligent distribution of labor, I guess.
And at this point in time, it was already set in stone that I was going to be leaving Refold in a couple months. And so this course basically had to be the one thing that was going to be financially supporting me for the next period of time. I was really putting all of my time and effort into this course, and I really wanted to make a lot of money off it. So I told Ken to design the marketing in such a way that we would make as much money as possible.
Yeah, as much money as possible is dangerous because if you take it too literally, and I guess that's what happened here, as much money as possible means regardless of how you get that money, which is a problem. You should always decrease the possible profit margin any of those times that it could impact your, I want to say, online perception or online image and the integrity of your persona. Not just at a moral level, that is the fundamental reason as to why I would hope everyone would choose to do so and avoid predatory tactics. But also, even from a marketing perspective, if you damage your online image, it's gonna backfire really bad. So there are in fact two incentives that should prevent people to go about it in trying to make, because otherwise what you do is, if you think about it, an excellent example of this are Bitcoins. They are trying to make as much money as possible no matter what, which means they inflate very quickly, make a lot of money, scam everyone, and then they sell, get all the profits. People lose everything, then the money drops, and that can only be used like you use it once, and then you're going to change the name of your company and call yourself another LLC because no one is ever going to trust you ever again. But when it's as much money as possible, that happens. That's like the greatest example of it, the scammiest, most horrible example of it. I think it's better make less money, but make sure your customer is happy, because that in the long run, if you want to maintain a name and a brand quality, then in the long run, that will pay off more than a burst of money that then sells your name and ruins you.
And this really led to probably the biggest mistake that I've made in my life thus far, which was marketing this course in a very terrible, off-putting, obnoxious way.
Right.
So basically, we designed this whole marketing strategy that was designed around building false scarcity, building fear in people, making it, going against all the principles that I've always had on my own YouTube channel, where we're making it sound like this one course that we're selling is the only way to get a perfect accent. We have some magic secret that other people don't have. You can get a perfect accent in only a couple months using this course.
Oh, that's bad.
If you don't get it, then you're going to sound bad in Japanese, and Japanese people aren't going to like you. And
nonsense, because the Japanese find it charming. I love the pitch accent, and I love to try and sound as native as possible when I speak any of the languages that are my target languages. But yeah, no, Japanese love it. If you have a little bit of an accent, not a big deal. As long as your accent and your pronunciation is clear enough for you to be able to achieve a successful communicative event every time you speak with a native, then as far as what you need, that's all that matters. Anything on top of that is just a matter of, it's your personal interest, you like it, then it becomes an art form, a form of expression of your skills and ability to try and reach your fullest potential. And I encourage it. But if you're not into the pitch accent, it's not a big deal.
You're only going to have one chance to buy this course. And basically, we tried to press all of people's fears buttons and FOMO buttons and basically just get people, as many people as possible, to want to buy this course. And this led to a huge backlash in the community, understandably so. First of all, just because inherently the marketing was very terrible and off-putting. But second of all, it was completely against my own personal brand. I was always about talking about how you don't need to spend a lot of money to learn a language. I actually had criticized Katsumoto for doing a very similar thing, so I basically was coming across as completely hypocritical. And also, that video that the hater made where they're taking clips of me out of context to make it sound like I want to just, rip off a bunch of whales, that video started to get a lot more attention once we released Project Uproot, and everyone started pointing to that video and going, oh, look, this is what Matt was talking about. This is the giant scam he's making to try to squeeze money out of the whales. And so all these things combined to lead to this giant backlash where everyone basically started calling it a scam before they even really knew what it was.
I don't question that the course would be really good. I don't think it's a scam in the sense that they don't deliver an actual really good product. Now, whether it's better or not compared to Dorgan's, I don't know. That's a very high standard right there. However, I think what the scam component is the marketing. That's the scam. And honestly, if you tell people you can learn it in 2 months, that's a scam. You can't. So that's false advertising. And similarly, if you say this is the only place, yeah, that's also this. So that's what the scam aspect of it, not the course. Because I truly believe, I haven't seen it, but already with a few screenshots that he showed, plus knowing how knowledgeable he is when it comes to Japanese, because I did call him arrogant a minute ago, but arrogant doesn't mean that you're not a great speaker. I respect his skill very much. I just didn't like how he speaks sometimes, or how he comes off sometimes. But people say that about me too. So once again, whatever. So far it's good though. Let's see how it's going to respond to that. But as I was saying, I do believe that the course is actually an excellent buy.
This whole thing about me being a scammer, my understanding is that it stems from this right here.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So what Ken and I thought at the time was, we're about to run this course. The course was planned to be a 2-month-long course. So rather than just coming out and trying to explain to everybody, hey, it's not a scam, when we didn't really even have anything to show for it yet, we'd actually run the whole course. It would be a success. The customers would like it. We'd get some testimonials, right. And then we'd come back to YouTube a couple months later, showing the testimonials, showing the course, showing the results, and then explain that it wasn't really a scam. Now I have to talk about, of course, the price of the course. The price of the course, Project Uproot, was $500 with an optional $250 upsell. So basically the base course was $500. You'd get all the components of the course I mentioned before. And if you paid an additional $250 for a total of $750, then you would get additional time with me, Ken, and the native speakers on live sessions where you get more attention.
I don't really know what to say about that. It is pricey. It is very pricey. Also because, even Dorgan's course is like $10 a month. You pay $10 and you can literally dive into it for a whole month and consume all of his videos. So yeah, that is very expensive. You have to plus a 250. Yeah, that's a little. It depends how you do it. At the end of the day, if people want to pay it, I wouldn't have a problem with it. People are like, no, I want to invest 750 because I have a lot of money. Wales, we were saying, and they can do whatever I want. But it is very expensive.
As far as the price goes, if we had fully delivered on the course that we were promising to create, I think $500 actually would have been a pretty fair price. Because when you think about all the time that it took me to create these hours of video lessons and all the time we spent creating other parts of the course and just all the time I had to spend studying pitch myself to get to this point, I think that $500 to really learn all of pitch accent, not just the knowledge, but getting to practice it and really having all the tools you need to learn to speak Japanese with perfect pitch accent, if you put in the work, I think is actually pretty fair. And
I don't know. Let me do a little calculation, Matt. $500, let's say, in the base form, not the $250 extra, so $500. But let's imagine that how many people he was hoping, let's imagine like 1,000 people buy it. He would be making $500,000. I know you put a lot of, now, wait. Let's be honest though. Let's imagine at least 27% cut. Well, I don't know, does he live in the US for the government? So 10% would be 50,000, 20% would be 100,000. Even if we added another 10%, for some reason he's paying 30% taxes. I doubt that he'll be able to write off a lot of it, but I'm just saying, you add another 10%, that would be 150,000 goes to the government. He's left with 350,000, but then he can write off a lot of expenses. Man, that's a lot of money. That's a lot of money, mate. So the idea of saying I put a lot of work into it, well, yeah. And then I guess you have to split it with Ken, so we have to half it for one single course. I still think $500 is a lot of money. You say it's fair. I guess it's your opinion, and that will be respected.
And if when I first got interested in pitch accent, there was a course like this that taught all of this and had this all together in one easy to understand place, I would have paid $500 for it happily. I see a lot of people online kind of saying things like, with that same amount of money, you could hire like hours and hours of italki lessons, right? Well, the thing.
Well, yeah, but italki don't do pitch accent, so that's kind of a silly rebuttal.
Is italki teachers don't know how to teach pitch accent.
True.
Right? They don't know the pitch accent rules.
Yeah.
They've never had to learn pitch accent themselves.
He's absolutely right on this.
They just picked it up naturally as a child. And so they really aren't going to be able to help you if your true goal is to master pitch accent, what this course is. So it's not really a valid comparison.
Right. I agree.
So yeah, there's that. I think $500, honestly, of course it is pricey, but for what we were promising, I think it's kind of fair. The extra $250 upgrade, honestly, I don't think we had any way to justify that value. I think that was too much, and definitely that was an additional mistake. $700.
Yeah, that was like marketing nonsense. It's like deluxe edition, get this game, and the game has 5 levels, but I'm removing the 5th one, and you have to pay for it as DLC. But if you buy the super deluxe edition, you do get the level that was already originally part of the thing. I get, yeah.
$150, I think, was we didn't have enough value to justify that. But anyway, the way that the course played out was we had part of the course content done before we launched the course, but for the majority of the course content, we were planning on creating it in real time and having the students go through it in real time.
Very dangerous. I would never do that. Create the entire course, upload it, then sell it. You can build hype. If you have one episode done, you could put that one for free on YouTube as a form of marketing. Dogen kind of does that. And I do that too when it's the case occasionally with Patreon. I will release an episode publicly, but there are already another 50 episodes on Patreon that people can go and watch. So the idea of just pay me for the full thing, even though it's not ready, and we will do it, and then you don't do it? Oh, no, that's not good. If I ever do make a course at one point in the future, the course is going to be entirely made, and then you'll have access to one of the episodes for free, and then you choose if you want to buy it, and if you do, you get everything I promised immediately. But you know why? Because even if you're a scammer, of course you're going to use that, but even if you're not a scammer, what if something happens? What if I'm like, well, I made 2 episodes, I was supposed to make 10, but now I can't do it because, I don't know, YouTube algorithm has gone down, I don't have the time because I need to try and do something, I'm not making enough money, or something personal happens with my family, but then the people have already paid. Not a good idea.
And at the time, this seemed like a good idea because we could get feedback from the students in real time. We'd make a video, they'd watch it, I could see what they thought was hard and not hard, and then I could kind of adjust what I was doing based on that. But in hindsight, this was a huge mistake because it took way, way, way longer than we initially predicted to actually make the course.
Right.
Like I said, we thought that Project Uproot was going to be just a 2-month thing, a 60-day course, and it ended up taking over a year to make the basic content for Project Uproot.
Right.
Part of this, like I said, was just that it took way longer than we predicted. You know, if you've ever worked on a big project before, you'll probably be able to relate to an extent. Mm-hmm. But the other thing is that midway through teaching the course, I moved to Japan. You know, I already knew I was going to move to Japan, but originally we thought we'd be done with the course by then. But right when we were still in the middle of the course, I moved to Japan in around the middle of 2023. And once I moved to Japan, I kind of got distracted. You know, I went to school in Japan. I was studying abroad. It was super fun. I had finally been living in Japan for the first time in 10 years. And so I was still working on the course on the side, but the pace at which I made the course really slowed down. And this, again, was another huge mistake that I fully take responsibility for. We had customers paying a lot of money for this course, and I should have even if I moved to Japan, I should have buckled down and made that my number one priority.
Absolutely. I relate at a human level, but as you see, it kind of connects to what I was saying. What if something happens with your family? Even something like this, move to Japan. Well, I guess it's fun and I get distracted so I don't do my job. I mean, whatever, I guess. That sounds a little bit more like a young person's mistake, I'll say, as a man who is got responsibilities now, but still, I understand it at a human level. You should never promise that you make something and then you get the money, but then you don't do it. With that being said, I'd like to know how much money you got. I don't know if you're gonna say that, but you keep mentioning $500, but that's $500 per person. How many people bought the course? Because at that point, you know, one thing is, well, the course didn't sell as well as we thought, so we made like $10,000 and we were ready from the taxes, and $10,000 is a lot of money, but the move already, the ticket took $2,000, and then by the time we were there, the move and everything, the money ran out, and then I needed to do something else. That's one thing. But if you sold 1,000, you made $500,000, and then after division, you still made over $200,000, $300,000, including write-offs from taxes, and you don't do your job, then it's like, well, then you got paid and you got comfortable. But people who pay, that would be much worse. I'd like to know which one it is.
That's not what I did. I let it fall to the back burner a little bit when I enjoyed myself a little bit too much in Japan, and that was a big mistake. And so it ended up taking a whole year to make the basics of Project Uproot, and we didn't even get close to making all the different components that I wanted to make in mind. When I set out to make Project Uproot, I wanted it to be completely comprehensive. I wanted to teach every single nook and cranny of pitch accent, all the little rules, even the ones that aren't written in any other books or resources, and I had to figure out myself just through listening to lots of Japanese and deducing the rules. But we really only created the very base core content of Project Uproot. I always wanted to make more, but because we ended up only selling Project Uproot one time, and we didn't have that many students, and we had to split all the profits between me and Ken.
Right.
After a whole year, the funds were starting to run low. And so we needed to do something else to make money. And so even though in my mind I wasn't totally satisfied with where Project Uproot was, we started selling a new product, which was Fluency Incubator. So before I move on to this, just to clarify, Project Uproot was a course that...
By the way, I hate that name. I know you worked with a marketing specialist, but I think marketing specialist failed twice here. Failed with the delivery method, and he failed with the name if he came up with it, because Fluency Incubator? Man, that's a bad name. I could have given you a better name. Heck, AI could give you a better name than that.
We sold one time. I think registrations were open for 1 week at the beginning of 2022. And after that, we have never sold the course again. So the total number of people that have ever taken Project Uproot is very small. And I'll talk about at the end about what I think is going to happen to Project Uproot now.
Right.
So basically, this brings us to November of 2023. Basically, the money that we'd made from Project Uproot had mostly run dry, and we'd finally finished the first version of...
By the way, this is what you should do if you want my careless opinion on Project Uproot. If it's complete and it's available, what you need to do is release the one episode you think is your best. Not the first, not the pilot, your best episode. Release that one for free on YouTube, then put a link to the course, reduce the price, and then you sell it to the people that still believe in you. That's how you do. You're welcome.
Project Uproot. And so Ken and I launched Fluency Incubator. So this was not a course like Project Uproot was. It was an ongoing program where students would pay $150 a month, or a little bit less if they were paying annually. And then twice a month, we would all jump onto a Zoom call, and we would do various things to help the students stay on track learning Japanese. Like I would give a presentation on a language learning theory topic. We'd hear from the students on how many hours of immersion they each did every week, and what content they immersed in that they liked. And then we'd also kind of give them extra homework and assignments and missions and things like that.
How many times a month? Because $150 and you do 1 hour is extremely expensive. $150 and you get to do multiple calls during the month, then sure, that's fine. It depends on the number of calls, but it would basically be similar to a private lesson. Which one is it?
Answer their questions, help them work out issues, etc. So we initially sold this just to the students of Project Uproot, and we did that for a couple months. And then eventually we did another promotion where Ken and I each sold it to our email list. When we did this, Ken wrote the emails. They weren't as bad as the Project Uproot launch, like marketing copy, but they were still very bad and cringy and spammy. And I don't know why I let those get sent out, but I did. And that's a mistake that I made.
Yeah, I received them, and man, some of those were really bad. With the promises of fluency and stuff like that, it was how quickly it's,
just to kind of clarify, with Project Uproot, we sold it once. For Fluency Incubator, we sold it twice. And besides these specific points of promotion, there was no way for you to sign up. It wasn't like there was all just a sign-up page that you could go to and join anytime. You could only join at these specific points. So yeah, we started running Fluency Incubator. Overall, it went pretty well, although definitely in hindsight, I think it was overpriced for that level of price, $150 a month.
Yeah.
I think we should have been providing a lot more content, had a lot more structure, had a lot more community for these different students and things like that. We probably should have been doing it every single week, not every other week.
Every other week.
Overall,
so like twice a month for that price is, it's too much.
Students that did come every other week to the sessions seemed like they were getting a lot out of it. And the contents that we presented in the lives, I do think were pretty good. So we ran this for close to a year, and over time, it started to be a little bit of a problem with consistently providing these lives to the students. Now, I really don't want to throw Ken under the bus here, but I don't really know how to tell the story without talking about this. Basically, Ken had some issues in his personal life that led him to not always consistently be able to show up for the lives. So there were times where we'd have to reschedule or cancel a live directly beforehand, and we wouldn't be able to communicate very clearly with the students on when the lives were going to be. And the students were kind of very confused in the dark, and it really was not good because the students were paying a lot of money, and for the money they were paying, they should have really been receiving something premium.
Absolutely.
And this got worse over time until it got to a point where at one point in time, late last year, we ended up missing multiple lives in a row. And for me, this was really the straw that broke the camel's back. and I told Ken that I didn't want to work with him anymore. Now, I will say that at this time, I think I should have taken a lot more initiative to contact the students, keep them in the loop, and show up and maybe do lives all on my own, even if Ken wasn't there. Normally, in Ken and I's partnership, he was kind of the leader and he kind of had the final say. So at the time, I didn't do that. But really, in reality, I was just being lazy, and I was using the fact that Ken wasn't showing up for the lives as an excuse to not show up myself, and I was blaming it on Ken. When in reality,
I appreciate the honesty here. I appreciate he didn't have to say this. So let's be real. He really didn't have to say this. So I do appreciate that.
I should have taken responsibility because my students were paying a lot of money. So that was another huge mistake. I should have taken a lot more initiative at that point in time. So anyway, yeah, it got worse and worse. Eventually, I told Ken that I didn't want to work with him anymore, and he agreed, and we decided that he would continue Fluency Incubator without me, and that I would go on and do a new project all on my own. But right around this time, Ken had decided he was going to do a promotion where he was going to sell his Japanese course called Protocol 80 to his audience, and he
wanted you to push it on your channel, I think, if I remember right.
Asked me if I wanted to do a promotion to my audience as well. And basically, he would write all the copy, he would do all the work. All I had to do was, send the email to my audience, and then I would get 50% of all the sales. Now, at this point, I hadn't actually been making almost any money at all from Fluency Incubator because the consistency issue led to lots of students asking for refunds, and we were giving refunds to anyone who asked for a refund. And so, although I knew it was a bad idea, I gave in to Ken's proposal to sell Protocol 80 to my audience. Now,
and you would have to disclose that, by the way. I wouldn't do it if you don't trust the other partner, because he wasn't showing up for the live stream. So of course, how do you know he's not going to do that again? So if you push it to your audience for money, that already is a bit problematic. But if you think, no, I think the guy's going to do it on his own, and you still want to do it, that's fine, but you have to disclose it. You have to say, guys, go subscribe to his thing. I take a cut. You don't have to say the exact percentage. Sometimes contractually, when we work for sponsors, for example, they sometimes don't want us to tell us. Sometimes they do. It kind of depends. You don't have to, but you have to say there is something in it for you.
I will say that I have been through Protocol 80, and it is a good Japanese course, albeit pretty expensive. But the bigger problem was I knew he was going to market it in the way he markets everything, which is in that used car salesman, very scammy style. And by that point, I was completely fed up with that style of marketing.
Right.
And so I knew it was a bad idea, but I gave into it because I wanted the money. And honestly, the way I thought about it was I've already tarnished my reputation. I've burned my reputation to the ground already, sending out these terrible scammy emails and doing the spammy marketing. How much more harm could a few more do?
Yeah, I think that's a bit like what Boogie did to 988. It's like similar to that. It's like might as well, and that's not a good idea.
That was the way I thought about it. Obviously, saying that out loud, it sounds terrible. It's a huge mistake. I should have known way better. But that's where I was at the time. And so to make it all even worse, I told Ken to just send the emails for me, and I didn't even want to look at them because I was so fed up with these emails. It hurt me every time to read these terrible emails that are going out. I didn't even want to see them. So I just told Ken, write them, send them, tell me when it's all over, and tell me how much money I made. And what happened was in one of these emails, Ken mentioned George from Japanese from Zero.
He did. I covered it. Put a link in the description. I did cover it.
And again, he's writing as if it's me, so it sounds like I'm sending this out. And he mentions that George from Japanese from Zero, he doesn't say it directly, but he uses...
No, like you can't have someone else write as if it's you. The only case in which something like that happens sometimes with me is when my wife deals with sponsors. And so when they write an email, she writes back, but she reads it to me. We talk about it. Sometimes we even disagree. And I'm like, no, I wouldn't say it like that. So swap it. And then they swap it. And then you can put my name underneath. Even if I didn't physically type it, it doesn't matter at that point because I read it and I say, yeah, no, that's what I would say. And besides, it's with sponsors. So it's not even, but with the public, not a chance. It would be like me having someone else answer a comment saying, thank you so much for watching. I'm going to do that. It's always me.
This is kind of sneaky wording to make it sound like George is endorsing Ken's Japanese course, Protocol 80.
Really
and
bad.
He was not. And so George got word of this, and he was understandably extremely upset because his name and his brand are being used to sell a course that he doesn't endorse. And I don't think George approves of the style of marketing, this kind of use salesman style of marketing that Ken always does.
Yeah.
And so George contacted me over line saying, hey, what is this, this stuff that I'm seeing about you saying that I'm endorsing Ken's course? I'm not, I never endorsed Ken's course. And he was very upset, understandably so.
Yeah.
And instead of just taking responsibility and saying, oh, I'm sorry this happened, this is all my fault, I'll do what it takes to make it better. Instead, I put all the responsibility on Ken, and I said, oh, Ken did it, I didn't even know about this, it's all Ken's fault, I'm sorry. And I was basically, a little wussy. And that understandably made George even more worse and even more upset, and he made a bunch of videos talking about the situation.
Yeah.
So that was all. It was obviously a huge mistake to let someone send emails to my audience without me reading over them. Obviously, it was a huge mistake to ever send out these type of spammy emails, and it was also a mistake to put the responsibility on Ken and not take responsibility on myself, because I was letting this happen the entire time, and because of that, it's entirely my responsibility.
No, it's both. Because Ken is no one is forcing Ken to write that nonsense. It is both.
So that's basically the gist of what happened. After all of this, I officially stopped working with Ken, 100%, cut all work ties.
Forgot to mention that I also forfeited all the money I was owed from the final protocol 80 promotion. Very good. That's good. That's very good. I forgot to mention a very important thing, Matt, but yeah.
And I went on to start a new community a couple months ago called the Immersion Dojo. It's on the platform called School.
Now, that's a good name. That's not the Fluency Incubator with the tubes in your throat. This is a good name. The Fluency Dojo, it's pretty cool.
Basically doing something kind of similar to what I was doing with Ken with Fluency Incubator, but instead of twice a month, it's every single week. And I'm
instead of a tube in your throat, you've got a katana and the wooden knife.
Also providing a lot more content. In addition to that, there's also a bigger community element.
Right.
And I'm talking about all the new language learning theory ideas that I had that I was talking about in Fluency Incubator. And I'm charging $18 a month. So I think it's a lot more reasonable price point.
Much more reasonable.
If you're interested, I'll put a link to that in the description. As far as I know, Ken is now continuing to run Fluency Incubator.
Yeah, I would wait a second, Matt, on pushing your own new projects. This is a good start. I liked this apology, okay? So personally, as a customer, as someone who was watching your video, so I'm not as a YouTuber. As a YouTuber, I mean nothing. But as a viewer, I do have, and because he's speaking to his viewers, I'm one of his viewers. As a viewer, I accept your apology, but you've got to build up that trust again. So I would wait a second for pushing this new thing.
Although I haven't been in contact with him recently, and I also believe that he's providing a lot of extra content to make up for all the lives that were missed, that people paid for. And he's also just offering refunds to anybody that just wants a refund instead of the extra content.
Not interested.
As far as what's going to happen to Project Uproot, honestly, I'm not totally sure because I haven't talked to Ken about this yet. But I think what I want to do is I don't really want to sell Project Uproot because I feel like the whole project is already so tarnished due to all the stuff that happened and the way it was marketed and everything. Put it on YouTube. And so what I think I want to do is some point in the not too far future, I want to make a new pitch accent course where I teach all the same stuff that I teach in Project Uproot, but I'll just remake all the videos, all the content, and then I will sell that at a probably much cheaper price than Project Uproot was.
Remove the probably. You gotta learn from your mistake, man. Remove the probably. And I personally would just, it's your thing. You do what you want.
And I'll offer a free copy to any of the original Project Uproot students.
That's good. Yeah, that's
and
good.
Hell, I'll give it to all the Fluency Incubator students as well.
That's very good.
So
very nice.
That's basically the gist of it.
If he does it, then it's good. The last thing he said, if you're one of these students, do let us know. Write it in the comment. At one point, when this happens and he says, hey, I made a new project, I've sent a free copy, and you're like, yeah, I received it. That's when I'm going to commend him. I'm going to say that was an honest thing to do. He just said it now. That's not enough.
Apologize for all of these huge mistakes that I made. Okay. And I also want to apologize for it taking me so long to just come out and be honest and transparent about what happened. And I also want to apologize for the combination of those two things leading to so many people's time and energy getting wasted on creating and viewing kind of drama videos within the Japanese learning community, which is really not helping anyone reach their goals of learning Japanese. Right. So I'm really hoping that with this video, we can put all the drama in the past, move forward. I'm back on YouTube. I have a lot of content that I've been wanting to make for a long time now.
Good stuff.
And I'm sure I'm going to make more mistakes because at this point, my behavior seems to definitely be a recurring pattern. But at the very least, I'm planning on trying to own up to my mistakes a lot more quickly and more readily going forward. Okay. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.
Well, yeah, that come to Jesus moment, didn't he? All right, language family, language people, noble ones, noble academics. Do we believe him? Do we trust him? Or is this all nonsense again and a trick to sell more stuff? What do you guys think? I personally, let me know, of course, in the comments what you think. Your opinion is always valued. For me, I usually tend to be always towards the idea of, if someone apologizes and owns up for their mistakes, I'm not going to hold them onto their head for the rest of their lives. So I do appreciate the sentiment, and I do appreciate the message. I think he did it well. This is just a couple of things, but it's a well-organized apology. It didn't look scripted, which is another thing that is good. I don't think apology videos should ever be scripted. They should be sincere. As a viewer, I accept it, but only time will tell. So let's see what he's going to do. We'll keep an eye on it, but it's good if he really changes, and as I say, as a come to Jesus moment when it comes to the language community, then it would be nice to have such a good speaker again with us that actually provides good content and doesn't do other stuff that is nonsense. That would be nice. It's an asset for all of us. All right, thank you very much for watching, Noble Ones. This was a little long, but I really wanted to give full context. I wanted to watch the whole thing. Let me know what you think. Thank you. Bye-bye.